Two people can earn exactly the same salary, but end up paying very different amounts of tax. Not because one earns more, not because one works harder, just because they've thought a bit more about how their income is set up. That shift from focusing on how much you earn to how it's structured is a bigger deal than it sounds. I didn't really get that at first. For a long time, I only cared about the number, the salary, the headline figure, same as everyone else. But at some point, that changed. I started paying attention to how the money was coming in, where it was going, what actually counted for tax purposes. And once you start looking at it like that, a lot of things fall into place. Bonuses start to look different. Pensions start to make more sense. Even the timing of income starts to matter in a way most people never think about. Most people, even high earners, are still asking, how much do I make? The better question is, how is my income actually structured? Same job, same salary, completely different outcome. I'm Mark. Welcome back to Wealth Architecture. Last time, we talked about the 60% tax trap, that awkward band where earning more doesn't always mean taking home more. Today, we're going one step further. We're talking about structure, what it actually means, and how to use it properly.
Let me ask you something.
If you earn over £100,000, do you know how much of that you actually keep? Not roughly, not after tax, give or take. I mean properly. And more importantly, do you know why that number is what it is? Most people don't. And it's not because they're careless, it's because nobody really explains this properly. Here's the key idea. Your salary and your income for tax purposes are not the same thing. They sound like they should be, but they're not. Your salary is just what your employer pays you, but HMRC doesn't stop there. They look at something called your adjusted net income. And that's what drives how much tax you actually pay. The difference between those two numbers? That's where all the interesting stuff happens. That's where decisions live. And it's completely legal. It's not a loophole. It's not clever accounting. It's just understanding how the system works. The surprising bit? A lot of people earning between £100,000 and £200,000 never really look at it. Everything in this video comes back to that gap, how it works, and what you can actually do with it.
When you strip it back, there are really 4 decisions that shape how your income gets taxed. They're not tricks, they're not hacks, they're just choices, ones most people either ignore or don't realize they're making. Pensions matter here. Every pound you put into a pension reduces your adjusted net income, so it's not really a question of, should I have a pension? It's more direct than that. How much of your income do you want to be taxed this year? And how much do you want to move out of the way before HMRC even starts calculating? That's the real decision. Once tax has been paid, you've still got another choice. Where does the money go? An ISA, for example, grows completely tax-free. No tax on the way in, no tax on growth, no tax when you take it out. That's powerful. But it only works if you use it deliberately, alongside pensions, not instead of them. A lot of people treat these things separately. The better approach is to think of them as part of the same system. This is one most people miss completely. If your employer offers salary sacrifice, and many do, you can choose to take slightly less salary in exchange for higher pension contributions. That lowers your taxable income. It can reduce national insurance. And sometimes your employer benefits too, which is why some are willing to contribute more. A surprising number of people never even ask the question. If any part of your pay is variable, bonuses, commission, shares, timing suddenly matters. A £10,000 bonus isn't just £10,000. If it lands in a year where your income is already high, it gets taxed differently than if it lands in a year where you've planned ahead. Most people just accept bonuses when they arrive, but if you understand structure, you start asking, does it make sense for this to land now? That alone can make a noticeable difference. Let's make this practical. Two people, same company, same £120,000 salary. Both have £15,000 they can do something with this year. Rachel keeps it simple. She puts the £15,000 into a stocks and shares ISA. That's a sensible move. Nothing wrong with it at all. James takes a slightly different approach. He looks at his adjusted net income and realizes he's in the range where his personal allowance is being reduced. So he makes a £20,000 pension contribution, partly through salary sacrifice. That brings his adjusted net income down to £100,000, which means his personal allowance comes back in full. After tax relief, that £20,000 contribution doesn't actually cost him £20,000. It's closer to £12,000 in real terms. He then puts the remaining £3,000 into an ISA. So what's the difference? Rachel invests £15,000. Straightforward, clean, easy. James ends up with more money working for him overall and a lower tax bill at the same time. Roughly speaking, there's about a £7,000 difference in outcome. Same salary, same starting point. The difference isn't risk. It isn't investment skill. It's just structure. Everything we've talked about comes back to one number: your adjusted net income. That's the number HMRC actually uses to decide whether you lose your personal allowance, which tax bands apply, what reliefs you qualify for. Most people know their salary. Very few know this number. And that's where money quietly slips away every year. The good news is it's easy to find. There's a calculator on gov.uk. Takes a few minutes. Once you've got that number, things become a lot clearer. You can actually make decisions with context instead of guessing. If you do nothing else after this video, just work that number out. This might not be comfortable to hear, but it's worth saying. The tax system isn't necessarily unfair, but it does assume something. It assumes some people will take the time to understand it, and some won't. And over time, that gap adds up a lot. This isn't about working harder. It's about understanding how things fit together. Rachel isn't doing anything wrong. She's saving, investing, doing what she's supposed to do. But without understanding how income is structured, she's missing part of the picture. James just understands the rules a bit better. That's it. And over years, that difference compounds. If you take one thing from this, make it simple. Go to the HMRC calculator, work out your adjusted net income, look at the number properly. Is it over £100,000? Could a pension contribution bring it down? Is salary sacrifice an option you've never explored? That one figure tells you more than most people realize. It shapes your tax position, your allowances, and the starting point for every financial decision you make. Once you understand that, you're not guessing anymore. You're deciding. And that's really what this is about. Understanding structure is the first step. The next question is what happens later when you start taking money back out? Because how you build this now affects what you actually keep in retirement. That's what we'll cover next. If this helped, share it with someone who earns well but hasn't really looked at this properly yet. It's one of those things that's much more useful to know early. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.